Hello, everybody. Welcome to the grand finals of the Victorious ARAM series in our inaugural splits. My name is Quintic. Beside me is Demented Loki. We are our usual casters at this point. It's pretty much what it is. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing alright so far. We're gonna have a little moment of silence for Salt on set, you know?
Yeah, it's
Wait,
unfortunate.
who was that
I,
again?
I guess life just got in the way, right? So
Yeah.
it's always sad whenever we like. We're talking about those who's actually dead, like lose a member of the broadcast team, but no, that's not the situation we're in. So, for anybody who doesn't know why we're live on a Sunday or what's going on exactly, the grand finals were rescheduled from their regular time on Wednesday, and they were moved to Friday, which is a time when our production team is just unavailable for this broadcast. So tonight we will spoiler-free be watching the series from a set of replay files. Loki has absolutely no idea what happened because I refuse to even give him the replay files until it's time for the game. So you know, my burden of knowledge hopefully doesn't impede my enjoyment of the series, because it sounds like this one is an absolute banger. Two first seeds going up against each other: Akuma Katanas and Bobo Destroyers. So Loki, what do you think about this matchup so far?
I mean, if I remember correctly, Bobo Destroyers, they're the people who picked A-Soul for me, so I already love it. I'll have to go back in the files and double check that one. I wasn't keeping too good of a log at the time. You know, someone raided my library. But right now, these pools are looking really interesting. If we're going to sit down and talk about the tempo and what makes ARAM ARAM, I'm enjoying seeing the options for the deep dive of Akali, the inevitability of Karthus, and a Mumu Oh My on the side of Akuma Katanas.
Yeah, exactly. And like, just before we get like too deep into that, I have to acknowledge that we are not allowed to say anything bad about Bobo ever. The cat is watching us, and if we don't praise him,
Mm,
you know, I mean, you
mm.
can't hurt a cat's feelings. It's not okay, right? But the cat's feelings should not be hurt at all, right? Bobo Destroyers have Pyke in their pool moving into game number one, and we've seen the tempo potential of this champion and just how every even fight becomes an advantage, which is a huge, huge issue for Akuma Katanas, like in a format where you're expected to trade gold back and forth, and not really progress unless you get like a perfect fight with excellent tempo, right? So, I mean, almost guaranteed that champion's being locked in at this point. Yeah, because you've acknowledged the Karthus. I mean, Karthus versus Pyke is a crazy matchup that I'm not sure we've actually seen on broadcast yet, right?
I don't think we've seen them in the same pools together yet. No, that's kind of exciting. But I think we've seen Double Trouble with Viego Pike before. And last time, I don't remember that going too well. If I do recall correctly. So,
Yeah, at least on Summoner's Rift, that duo has like slightly more anti-synergy than you'd think, just by being a double execute core, right?
yeah.
But yeah, no, a lot of different ways to push the tempo. Quick frontline analysis shows like good tank options for both teams to kind of create a team fight foundation. shows some genuinely good like skirmisher or assassin picks for tempo on both teams. Like I'm just checking now for mages on both sides. Okay, like Bobo have like a slight disadvantage, like relying on primarily Zoe unless they want to go the AP Shyvana route. But honestly, these pools are looking like both teams have very, very solid options to throw back and forth. The primary disadvantage for Bobo is a lack of really potent ranged champions. So like we're kind of expecting to see them in like the full wombo, full tempo direction, while Akuma Katanas could take that control side. But yeah, genuinely some of the more even pools, I think. I'm not really seeing, just in terms of 15 versus 15, a major advantage for either side.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Production seems to have gotten on that with the bot. We were thinking some of these matches were fixed for a bit. And, I'm kind of excited. They're going to have to be in there like swimwear and see what shakes out. And those are the fun comps for ARAM.
You know what's funny? I actually had to disclose the code in a support ticket at one point. So just to prove that it wasn't rigged. And like at worst, JavaScript's math.random is like not a very good function. Like that's
it's not.
Yeah, JavaScript, it is what it is. Either way, but before we go to break here and before we get the game actually set up, I'm just going to pull up the file so we can confirm what the final 5 champions locked in are on both sides. So Bobo Destroyers, sure enough, the Pike is present. We are running a comp of Zed, Cassante, Pike, Viego, and Zoe. So they have gone for some of the ranged damage as well. They have gone for that double execute core. And of course, like, you can't leave Pike on the table. Interestingly, though, Akuma have not responded in kind with the Karthus for that sort of tempo. They've actually gone for a core of Amumu, Irelia, Azir, Akali, and Alistar. Excuse me. So a lot of A champions here in this pool for Akuma.
Yeah.
Kind of like their namesake. But what do we think about what's actually been locked in?
I mean, solely on Alistar makes a lot of sense. That's kind of his go-to. I'm really confusing Cafe Chocolata to end up picking up that Amumu, since Cafe Chocolata has typically been very much on the side of, I am going in, I am getting money, and I don't care what happens to anyone else. I'm just going to have a good old time over here and kill 3 people. That's been his personality in these games so far. But going Amumu does not really feel like it yields that same play. It looks like they're going to be, looking to wombo with the team so far. Maybe see Klexo and Fluke take the high horse on this one, get to look real pretty as they dash around in the fight.
Well, just kind of demonstrating some of the support experience from the VTS as well, right? Honestly, I don't know, it's hard to say, because on the one hand, Bobo have the tempo cheats that Akuma does not. But on the other hand, like, there are a lot more orthodox team fight champions on the side of Akuma, right? Regardless of who's getting the gold or how they're distributing it exactly. Because if this Azir is able to kind of play a stable game and the Pike executes are denied, like, it's still an uphill battle, but the scaling is certainly in their favor, right?
Yeah. I mean, they can get big, but I honestly think we're going to be seeing Zero become the raid boss Kashante, just bullying the Lil Sharima Shuffle Boy until they're just sad. Right? The rest of her team with Tortwig picking up that Zed, the Assassins are surprisingly good in ARAM. We've been finding that one out quite a bit recently. The little bit of a buff given to all of them makes them really strong, and Pike's going to be no exception. These are going to be some very, very scary things to deal with, even though they're not building anything really to stay alive. The bit of balancing that Riot did for ARAM makes them some beefy boys.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the Assassins are so good in PvP, and just kind of playing this Bowson's Law style, and I do expect us to see a lot of PvP given the low wave clear versus low wave clear compositions here. So, if you want to see any of that action, we're gonna go to break for just a moment so we can get our caster point of views synced up and just prepare the game screen for you all. We'll be back as soon as possible for Game 1 of the VAS Grand Finals. Don't go anywhere. We are back with game number 1 of the VAS Grand Finals. Bobo versus Akuma. And how much action are we about to see at level 1? I'm interested. I'm expecting a bloodbath this game.
Yeah, we gotta get a little bit of umizoomi with those streaming soldiers sitting there at the front lines. But before we get into it, I didn't get to ask my question yet.
You didn't. That kind of ruined your entire gimmick.
I'm not gonna get to it. Yeah, you got my whole shtick on, and then we're gonna see Zero get taken on out already for first blood. Things are gonna get looking a little bit rough. The mark is on Hackerum, but we're gonna be tossing that Viego back in the circle, and Hackerum is gonna just go on a little bit of a tear, forcing Mighty Kraus and Pico back with Fluke. That's a Zed on the inch of his life. Now, my question for you. Did you think chocolate milk came from brown cows too as a kid, or was I dumb?
You know, I don't think I thought of chocolate milk, like, at all. Just... you know, like, it's just, it shows up, I drink it, it's delicious, and the concept of where things came from was too much for my brain to handle. But I do know that kills come from pike hooks.
Yeah.
Hey, how's that sound?
I mean,
that's a good one. We're watching a 10-kill game at a minute and a half, and the fight shows no signs of slowing down. At first, they were trading HP just onto Hackerum, but now nobody likes having a health bar. Mighty Kraus is dashing out with the Phantom Undertow. Klexo is actually the one falling. And we're primed for a Torchwig pentakill if this fight goes on just a little bit further.
I mean, Soli's going to be trying to ensure that. Motelis is going to be the next one to fall. Soli walk around this fight, looking to get the stun pulled right on into the loving arms of Zero. There we go. That's kill going on over onto this Alistar. We were just talking about low wave clear comp, low wave clear comp. It's just going to be another war here. As Mark's going to be coming up, Cafe Chocolata is just going to cry me a river and waddle his way on out as Mighty Kraus just fiending for another hook. He wants to make a play. There's the Mark into a little dashy dash with a triple stun. Klexco is going to be making sure that one goes bye-bye, and Cafe Chocolata going to get traded for their sins. Motelis is now going to be taking that form, but doesn't have a Heartbreaker to be able to get himself out, so he's just a tank with nowhere to go, as Akram is having a good old time, going to be looking to just trade some health back and forth. But Zero is going to be falling to Fluke. Motelis is going to be the next to fall to Klexo, and Soli under the tower somehow.
You know, I know that we tend to see some really explosive games in this league, but like a 21-kill game before the 3-minute mark is probably the most extreme version of that we've ever seen at this point.
Yeah, Klexo lived way longer than they should have. Let's be real here. Up there we go with the Mighty Kraus hook.
So at this point, we have to see like who is actually getting gold here, who is actually developing items, and like we can see one champion on the side of Akuma who is like getting farm priority, right? 20 CS on the Aurelia, while nobody else is really focusing on any of the minions for Bobo Destroyers. We are approaching level 6s. We are actually hitting level 6s. The first death from below actually does not generate a kill, which is huge.
It's so cool!
If Akuma wants to stay, like, capable of taking these perma-trade fights, they're going to have to respect the next time that cooldown comes up for sure. As it stands, though, with 28 kills and like a fight that is literally impossible to commentate because it never ends, and our supply of breath does.
Listen, speak for yourself. I got O2 on drip at this point.
That's very powerful. I wish I had like half of that like, breath control.
Listen, it comes with time a little bit. So we're gonna have Mighty Kraus is gonna be getting a dash onto Mighty Chocolate, who's going to be the next one to fall. Motelis has a Heartbreaker. They could go crazy. Soli's not in a good spot. Torchwig is making sure they're the next to fall. Pico gonna be losing their life as we're seeing this trade going handedly into Bobo Destroyer's favor. And we're able to get a little bit of damage on this tower. Finally, I think this is the first time this game any of that's happening. It's with an ace. Klexo going to be looking to pop off, dashing around. Has the fully stacked passive. Not going to be able to make anything happen quite yet, though. Just looking a little bit scary under that tower as the Hex Gates come through.
We're actually seeing some demolishes taken by some of the members of Bobo Destroyers, so that any opportunity they get on the turret will be valuable. I kind of like the adaptation on a low wave clear, low siege comp. I think it's very good for pushing the game forwards. As it stands, we're looking at about a 1,500 gold lead, like nothing earth-shattering, but like Duskblade completed on Pike, like, and now the gold lead is below.
There we go.
Death from below here. Cassante dashes forwards with a Pathmaker, locks up Soli, who I can barely tell with all of the CC text. Like, Mighty Krause's health is traded back, but that will not be the end of this as Metellus takes the Alistar combo forwards onto Klexo. The health relic is popped. The Zoe Bobo lands in the backline into a Kali here. Klexo taken down by Zero. Zero shuffled in turn back into the turret here. Hackram trying to put in some work on the Akali, but will get taken out in the end. Conditions on Bobo Destroyers are awful, horrendous. And Pico is not long for this world for sure. Unable to push the lead any further, it's just a trade of gold. Potentially one that costs Metellus as well. Just dueling the tanks right here. Eventually falling into the turret you go. Bye-bye, Viego. Gold lead settles at around 1k. Unless Pike has anything to say with it about it on this next ultimate.
Yeah, just a little hasta luego, Viego. We're seeing it. It's a really interesting comp that we have from Akuma Katanas. They can have a really good team fight, but it can't last forever. Sully finding their way into a turret again, as Mighty Krause is going to continue to have all these hooks landing. The mark on Pike is really strong, as we're going to be seeing things come out. It's a lot of stuns that have been able to just happen off of the little snowball. Alright, the Birdo is almost cooked there. You know, a little spookle, but it's okay. Mighty Cross is going to be pulling Hackerum into a stun, you know, nice bit of poke. Yeah, you know, they're just getting in holiday spirit. Sully with a flash, knock up, not able to get anything. My boy, my beautiful boy, come on.
Yeah, that Alistar engage doesn't actually result in anything here. Neither does the Cafe Shot. Oh, it does. No, Cafe Chocolata bandage tosses into his death. A second death from below is like generating a lot of gold for Bobo Destroyers. They're trying to extend the reset any further. Metellus forwards with the Akali possession. These health bars are quite high for a team under turret, however. Unlikely we'll see any immediate dives. Well,
I mean, Unbreakable Will is not here, so we're going to be seeing him to fall.
Yeah.
The Shurima Shuffle gets 3, though! Under turret, the death from below is just going to be too much to handle. They're able to trade a couple kills back. Mighty Cross is going to be the next one to fall. Hackerum looking for whatever else they can get, opting to be able to focus on the Torchwig, is going to use the Death Mark to be able to dash dance their way away from Hackerum and come back in. The Exhaust with the Health Rune, not quite enough to keep them alive, as Zero is going to be making sure Cafe Chocolata is the next one to fall. That is heartbreaking.
And Torchwig is sitting pretty with almost 2,100 gold in pocket, just waiting for that next death to have impact here. May actually take the mark, just trade, trying to trade their life for some chunk here. Assuming that Pico and Metellus are going to be enough. Actually, Zoe is waiting in base for an item here. Unless we do choose to just recall, or like take the Hexgate immediately as an emergency here. Klexo forwards onto Metellus, not threatening the Zoe as much. They are taking 2, however. Pico Force behind the tier 2 turret. Zero wants something here on the Cassante. It's first turret for Akuma Katanas, and they are chaining and staggering kills, which is catastrophic for the tempo of Bobo Destroyers. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, Zero with the Pathmaker had a play in mind, is just not able to make that land, and we forgot to talk about how oppressive Azir turrets are on ARAM once you get an inch, but it looks like they're going to be able to claw some of the space back anyway. Bobo is not out of this quite yet. They're having a grand old time with it, as that's a almost other ace happening for them to be able to continue to run it up.
Yeah,
and we have cooldowns coming up soon.
So, sorry, yeah. Really good point on the Azir turret, though. Like, just the fact that you get to maintain tempo pretty much uncontested. If you're able to just sit there, you have good HP here. Akuma Katanas does not want to let their turret go quietly. They all hexgate forwards. Cassante is trying to cause some disruption here, but it's not enough to save the Zed, not enough to save the Viego, certainly not enough to save the Pike. Pico kiting backwards. A bubble lands onto the lowest HP target. It will take out Klexo, but now with that portal jump, Zoe locked in place for a easy cleanup on X-Luke. Zero against the world, 1 versus 3, all out, and gets Giga Cassante in return. A clean, not quite clean, but like a solid ace for Akuma Katanas with minion priority. Spells disaster for Bobo.
Yeah, you do not want to be able to let Azir onto these turrets for free, but it looks like Zero's able to stall for long enough. Cafe Chocolata is going to be the next one to fall. No Curse of the Sad Mummy yet. They have just a little bit more to go before they can take this next fight, so Bobo has a lot of room to work with. Mighty Kraus very confident on lurking their way up here, getting ready to have that hook in hand to see what happens. And this could be disastrous if they grab the right target. Klexo not quite hit by the Viego stun, though, as we're having a little bit of a trouble bubble on Hakarum. That's such good poke to be able to make before those all-ins from Solly and Hakarum. Those are the two targets that you have to worry about the most starting something. As we're seeing, Hakarum is going to fall to the Heartbreaker, and we're going to be seeing things pick up a little bit. The Azir turret will be coming out, and Azero is just going to keep so much space to be able to make sure this goes away. The Trouble Bubble is going to be landing onto the Shreem and Sorcerer, and there's the exhaust coming out onto Torchwig, but it doesn't matter. Pike already grabbed them anyway. Ignore that death mark for just a moment as Klexo looking to be able to make something happen with Cafe Chocolate. Soli is going to be popping the Indomitable Will to be able to try to have the tankiness to walk all over this fight. Pico's going to be falling to Klexo before anything can happen, and Klexo's on the run, trying to be able to keep some level of priority in this fight. They're still fully stacked. This is a scary man going to be tossed away to Torchwig, and Sully does not have the stats to be able to deal with Motelis when they take that form. Zero is going all out here, though. Has the ult from Kashante going to continue to run this one down? There goes Cafe Chocolata just before Chris's Sad Mummy can come up, and the Heartbreaker into Hakarum. They have the mobility, they have the health bars, they could get rid of Fluke right here, or they can go for this tower. It looks like they're going to go for Glory. There's the Shurima Shuffle to be able to try to make something happen. Fluke not quite able to return anything other than Motelis falling to the tower on his lonesome.
Yeah, and Bobo Destroyers are given a new lease on life here. Their gold lead is extended. They're able to actually confirm it into some tempo, some pressure onto the tier 2 turret. And of course, they still have to find some good deaths with the minion wave like forwards. I worry these ones might be a little bit late as Pico is kind of caught up in the portal jump and the minion wave is like reasonably close to neutral. Of course, cashing out with the 3-item Zed, who's given highest farm priority here, is something you want to do as soon as possible, but at what cost, we have to ask.
I think this is fine because it's pretty hard to get through Zero, even with your minion priority here, to be able to really take too much damage in. We have Motelis coming up in a second, but we have the Curse of the Sad Mummy to worry about. Sully's going to be popping their Indomitable, going to be running it down, has the damage. The Curse of the Sad Mummy on just Motelis, though. That might be scary in a moment, but for now it's going to be looking to get them in inhib as the Trouble Bubble is going to be coming out on a Sully. There's no peel there. There's a bandage toss into a whiffed Shurima Shuffle. There goes Fluke, and there goes our boy Mighty Kraus as we were getting ready to get started. Sully going to be the next one to fall. Hakarum does not have the health to be able to make the run. Zero looking very strong with that double kill to be able to claw some more space back and start running down Cafe Chocolata.
Yeah, so Sully starts the fight so effectively on the Alistar. Like, you cannot actually defend the turret when somebody doesn't care if they're taking constant turret fire, right? So although, like, Akuma have lost a few more members, claiming the inhib in exchange for just your tier 2 turret and kills that are not actually taken by death from below, you take that most of the time. On their inhibitor, they're looking to refight with a condition advantage onto Zero here. X-Fluke is going down to the death mark, of course, but Pico is caught by 4. Zero is behind enemy lines. Torchwig is trying to find an exit, will force to blink backwards into the bandage toss, buying as much time as possible, looking for some extra wave clear. Hakarum in the back, 1v2ing, not able to find anything on that skirmish. Zero buying as much time as possible. Torchwig has just fallen in the enemy fountain.
He doesn't die.
And the end result is, unfortunately, a bunch of staggered deaths, but with the wave close enough to the side of Akuma Katanas that Bobo Destroyers should have time to respawn here. That said, the inhib deficit is confirmed, and now you have to rely like very, very heavily on your Zed to kind of wave clear your way out of this mess.
It's incredibly unfortunate being in that spot, not quite able to grab that inhib, but I think we're at the stage now where a one team fight could spell the end one way or another with the way that both of these teams clear towers. Not great at the minion wave, don't get me wrong, but those towers kind of made a silly putty at this point.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Bobo Destroyers still have to punch through a lot of structures, including the inhib, and even though they are relying on the rapid side for wave clear and it is working, it's going to take them a lot of time to fully get the wave in from this position, especially if it's Akuma Katanas who are the ones engaging. Pico is dead immediately. Zero is trying to defend their carries, but Klexo is getting a lot of damage off. X-Fluke executed, and it is currently a 2-for-1, but with some bad health bars. Death from below does not find anything into Hakurum's Zonya's, or stopwatch rather. Mattel is on very low HP, trying to find a reset. Trades Hakarum back. Torchwig dueling the Amumu here, trying to deny some more waves, but the waves are already in the turret. Klexo has attack speed, The death mark used onto Alistar will confirm that kill very quickly. Plexo turning their attention immediately to the Zed, who is attempting to buy time for Pico, who has just respawned. Zero, who is imminent, and it looks like the Bobo Destroyers are hanging on at the cost of desyncing their Zed from the rest of the team, but not even. Now even.
There it goes.
And it's
Pico
Plexo
with
actually
it.
cleaning up completely.
Oh, flirting with death whenever you walk up to an Aurelia, as we're going to be seeing Clico at this point just stalling out, seeing what they can get. Mighty Kraus with the shutdown, able to shift their cut on over to Tortwig, I believe, actually gets that one. So, no, Zed just gets richer, as Fluke is going to be chunked for almost all their health. The Shurima does not rise. The exhaust coming out again. Zero does not care. He's just going to walk them right on down. We're going all out. Going to be seeing if they're able to pop the Hackerum, who's going to be forced on the back foot a little bit. Zero has been an unstoppable force this entire time. So much crowd control and so much disruption as they start to get on. Here comes the Zanya. Is going to be coming out from Hackerum, but it's not enough, right? As we're getting into this, Zero's ult's going to run out. But this is a lot of priority on this wave and on the incoming inhibitor that we're going to be seeing, as there's no more inhib for the side of Akuma. And we have Motelis is just going to get stunned all the way up. There's Curse of Sad Money on to 2, but I'm not sure those are the 2 you want. Motelis is going to continue to walk around this fight. The Trouble Bubble does get the Drowsy off in time. Klexo going to be able to secure 1, and Zero has been on quarter HP almost this entire time. Going to be continuing to run it, as we can see Cafe Chocolata very low. Klexo about half, and Zeri's just going to be flirting them as the above blow goes out from Mighty Kraus into... looks like a nice little disengage. We're going to be chilling.
Not quite chilling. Pico portal jump forwards a little bit into the fire. Tortwig is trying to clean up a little more. Actually goes for the champion combat rather than the wave. This may cost Bobo Destroyers a lot. Even though Hackerum is on very poor HP, there is the outer blue side relic available, which I don't think actually denies death from below. There it is. But yeah, the solo Pike not able to do much more than clean up a target who would die on this push anyway. Now desynced from the team. Poor wave clear available. We have to see some combat into this very, very strong Irelia. The Emperor's Divide is used early. Soli has arrived, can indefinitely tank turrets, but X-Luke actually mispositions into the Viego. The Azir reset is online. Soldiers attacking a lot. The Bubble Lance holding onto Alistar. Plexo diving forwards, trying to find some extra damage on the Pico, and is going to eventually barely not take them down. Shut down in part due to the Kasante all out. And now Bobo Destroyers are given some space to breathe. Their gold lead still very substantial. Their tempo slowly starting to recover as their inhibitor is surely close to respawning. But what can they do with this time with 2 critical carries on Akuma down? And with Zoe in such poor condition?
I'm pretty sure it just got retaken, actually, is what we saw a moment ago.
Oh, yeah, my mistake. No, it's been a long week.
No worries, no worries. It's pretty easy to lose track of the objectives when we're just having a slap fest at this point.
It's 66 to 55 in sub 20
at 18 minutes.
Like,
I mean, the Vanguard's Edge from Klexo has gotten so much value, just blowing up Pico out of nowhere. They just sneezed in the wrong area code, I suppose. We're going to be seeing Cafe Chocolata. There's a good amount of damage coming out of them. The Trouble Bubble going to be making them take a nap, and that's a half health to Mumu. But how much does that really garner you? Sully's going to be making sure we're going to be going into Motelis first. The Heartbreaker to be able to avoid an all-in. There's the Vanguard's Edge, though, marking up 3 people. There goes Pico. We're going to be seeing them make a run of this as Hackerum is able to grab Motelis. Turtwig on the back foot with the exhaust, but... the Curse of the Sad Mummy going to be securing that, making sure Fluke does not get breathed on in a moment here. And Hackerum, they're just having a good time. They're like, yeah, my team can end. It's fine. There's the above and below from Mighty Kraus to be able to just start to end this. Klexo does not take damage. Jack Show's Death Dance is a gross combination on some of these more snowbally bruisers who are going to just run fights to begin with. And that's game 1. That's going to be going on over to Akuma Katanas.
It takes just 1 high-impact mark to end the entire game at a major gold deficit for ARAM standards, and Akuma Katanas take game number 1. Honestly, given like some of the champions we saw, not exactly the outcome I expected to see, but maybe I'm being a little too biased in terms of like some of the ARAM killer champions who are clearly not unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I cursed that one a little bit, since I think that's both times we've seen Pike Viego get picked. a little bit exciting, starts to be able to run it for a while, and then someone takes a cheeky little 2x4 to the left kneecap, and we see what happens, you know?
Yeah, it's Bobo Destroyers were just not able to maintain their tempo really at any stage of the game, and really a lot of the combat advantage was on the back of that Irelia, right? Tortwig had some pretty impressive plays on the Zed, but much of the time, rather than going for some of those wave salvage plays, we saw like an attempt to trade HP, which ordinarily not the worst idea you could have on this map, but
Yeah.
you know, when your team is just at such a PvP disadvantage because the frontliners are taking every pike hook, and you know you're finding it difficult to actually get the fight started on your own terms unless it's off the back of an Akuma play where they're already at some condition disadvantage. Um, I mean, yeah, recovering from that position with low wave clear is just such a difficult thing when you don't have a champion that, like, in this context, scales as well as the Aurelia or the Azir.
I mean, we also saw some incredible Emperor's Divides pulling multiple members of Bobo Destroyers under the Tower of Akuma Katanas when they already only had about half their bar to work with. And those were able to keep quite a bit of gold lining those pockets. So it was some pretty fairly decent play on the side of Akuma Katanas to get it going. We don't have too much to be able to dump on Bobo for. They tried to play the fight at all times to Ooga Booga Gaga Googa. You know, I think Sun Tzu said that one once. And
Yeah,
it just didn't shake out.
yeah. I guess we just had like a little bit of Unga Bunga resistance on the side of Akuma. You know, yeah, they drank their potion of resist, like Ooga Booga, I guess.
Yeah.
Potion of resist smork. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You know,
we will
smoke the
see
weed.
if we will see going into game two, whether some of these beatdown tendencies are maintained, like what the flavor of our different pools are here. Because remember, like Bobo Destroyers are not fully in control of all of their adaptations. We're gonna have to see what they're able to react to, and we're gonna see how I react to it, because I'm gonna have to go look at those pools for the first time and set up the graphics before we can actually get into that game. So to give us the time to set up those graphics, we will take a short break, rest our voices. You know, because if we have to play by play another 120, 130 kill game, in a five
Yeah,
game
just a
series,
couple.
we're gonna need some of that
Yeah.
that throat relaxation, I
Yeah.
guess.
Listen, I'm hoping that we get mango habanero as our flavor for this game, you know?
Exactly, yeah. All right, so everybody, will Akuma Katanas progress their lead and go up 2-0 in the series, or will Bobo Destroyers, the first seed of Group B, like the group that did put 3 teams up into the semifinals, be able to come back? Don't go anywhere. Game 2 coming up soon. Welcome back to game number 2, ladies and gentlemen, of the VAS Grand Finals. Akuma Katanas have just gone up 1-0 despite a gold deficit in game number 1. Now moving into game number 2, and we're seeing the current leaders with a pretty frightening pool to work with.
Yeah, we already saw Klexo pop off with the Aurelia, and we saw Cafe Chocolate has some comfortability grabbing the Amumu, despite it not being typically their go-to. But the rest of this pool just got scarier. We have the Oriana potential support to be able to go for a little bit more of a team fight wombo alongside maybe a Yone's Fate Sealed. Or, if we're feeling frisky, we can put Sully, who would be our good old Enchanter Goober, or Fluke, we've seen also tech into the Enchanter tree. Play around with Seraphine, pop the Encore, and see what we can do for just blowing up a whole squad. And, Bobo, they get Azir this time.
True, yeah, we definitely have some decent backline options for Bobo, right? We've got the Azir face up, we've got the Xerath if you want to play for more of a poke. If you're expecting Akuma Katanas to go like straight in on you rather than going for full wombo, if they lean more towards the Alawi, the Yone, the Zed, Neela is available. I mean, the Samira even too, in Summoner's Rift, that is a very Neela favored matchup, right? Swain to eat some of this counter engage and some of this wombo. So like Bobo Destroyers are certainly not helpless, right? But we are looking at a potentially flimsy front line here. Decent Nautilus and Jarvan and Rel options, which can then be responded to in turn by the tank busting Alawi, who's also going to provide Akuma with some extra wave clear, right? So I mean, we're kind of playing this like 4D chess against each other with these pools to a degree, right? Like how much do you want to tech into anti-engage just to then yeah, we are having some pretty profound technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, where I don't know. First, an internet crash where my modem just wasn't online. Then an encoder overload. But hopefully that means we are back for game number 2 of the VAS Grand Finals. I'm just kind of holding my breath for just a moment before we pick up our conversation where we left off.
So how do you feel about Shaco boxes?
I do like Shaco boxes. I think he's a silly little guy, and I think he does silly little guy things. And then, the trademark of a silly little guy is when the enemies do not perceive you as a silly little guy. They're actually just enraged.
Okay.
So, granted, on ARAM, there's the kind of vision detection on the cannons, but so the effectiveness is reduced a little bit.
Yeah,
Serious
I feel like
answer.
one of the main things Bobo Destroyers might be seriously considering is Vex. For just a little bit of added disruption on a burst mage could help out quite a bit if they're worried about all-in comps.
Yeah, for sure. But the scary thing is if they're relying on the Vex for disruption, then she's not actually allowed to participate in the wave clear. And then to kind of compensate for that, the damage spread on Bobo Destroyers gets very, very magic focused very quickly, right? I mean, because what are we relying on? We're relying on the melee Neela or the melee Yasuo, at best a marksman Quinn. I think Graves is sitting there, but he does like playing into the low range and contributes some decent wave clear too. But is he really that supported here? I can definitely see what you mean in terms of a Graves for wave clear plus Vex combo for damage spread concerns, as you're not instantly losing to the Zaka Mumu, but I'm also seeing a lot of champions that meaningfully threaten Graves back for playing in his effective range.
Oh yeah, like our boy Nunu.
yeah. We were talking in the break about how the first champions that showed up were Yorick and Nunu. I just love it when it looks like your pool's opening with probably your worst candidates.
Listen, they're doing their damn best, okay?
I think the picks would look a lot more appealing if there were smaller pools to work with, for sure. But yeah, it is what it is. So, at risk of the universe conspiring against myself, I think we're probably wanting to just move into the game at this point. So let's just take a peek at what was actually drafted.
My friend, I don't have the file.
Oh, that's a very, very good guess. Here, let me just tell you what's going on. We can coordinate that in the break.
Yeah.
So Akuma have drafted like definitely in the Wombo direction. They have Amumu, Oriana, Zac, plus Zed and Yone. So kind of some of their trademark like assassin melee picks for pushing the tempo, on top of like the orthodox old school way of playing ARAM, which is kind of a scary combination. And then for Bobo Destroyers, they have in fact gone for that Vex that you were forecasting, using Rel to push the game forwards, and they're supplementing that with Graves, Azir, and Yasuo. So trying to use actually several combo setups for Yasuo. They are also very, very focused on this
Yeah.
Wombo here, like kind of using Graves to drive much of the early game. Um, and we'll just have to see if like Graves is able to withstand the assassin pressure early, and or if Akuma is able to snowball, if Bobo is able to resist. Who combos who, right? It's kind of a classic
Yeah.
ARAM. Oh, so Loki, did you want to like kind of send us off into our
Yeah,
break
yeah,
here, or?
yeah. So before we get into it, I got a question of the ages for everyone. Out of all of the Pokemon from Nintendo, we're not going to talk about Pokemon Fusion. We're going to ignore that for a moment. That is not an officially licensed thing, though some of them do look pretty good. Which one do you irrationally believe you could beat in the fight? Like the worst Pokemon you believe that you could smoke? And we'll think about that one as we go to break.
All right, that's a good one. I'll have to put my thinking cap on here. Game number 2. Don't go anywhere. And we are back. Akuma Katanas versus Bobo Destroyers Game 2 in the VAS Grand Finals. Before we got into the game, we were asked what Pokemon you could take in a fight, and, you know, I'm no Pokemon expert, but my vote is Rotom, because all I have to do is unplug the electricity and I win, and given what's going on in my house, that seems very easy. Speaking of winning,
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a Nimo company for yours, though, as Cafe Chocolate is going to be making their way out there with that Zac passive, and Klexko is looking to go big with Yone, but is going to get sent back to the fountain by their brother Pico, as Hakuram is going to get that lick back. So, I didn't state whether or not you could bring in tools to said encounter, so I'm going with Mega Diancie, because they have a 4x weakness to steel. And... and I don't believe I need to elaborate further on where this is going.
That is very intimidating. Hakuram is chunked out to almost 0, but in retaliation, the Graves and the Vex are chunked as well by the Zac Engage. Pico's trying to skirmish with Soli, will take them out in the end. Although health bars are draining very quickly here. Flash forwards onto Hakuram. It's a double, it's a triple kill, in fact, for the Yasuo before he is down. It's, in fact, still dashing around, defended by the Rel. Looking for more on Cafe Chocolata, most likely going to pop Zac's passive. In fact, it is down. A 0 is spending the last of their mana just to get X-Luke away from this fight. Pico finally burning down to the Orianna. But now it's Tortwig claiming some of the kills. 0, with virtually no abilities left, is retreating. Tortwig trying to just conserve HP, throwing a Q here and there. Blasting Soli a little bit. Lots of champions who can fight them. Right, Hakuram going forwards after Soli's CC, but marked in return. Hakuram is down. Big combo onto Bobo Destroyers, as Akuma are the ones who end up finding more kills. A gold lead established already without significantly low health bars to turn it back around. So we do have a tangible lead for Akuma Katanas in the opening of this game.
Yeah, I know I previously stated about Cafe Chocolata's tendency to go with some carry champions, but Zac makes sense. Basically Luffy with the elastic slingshot, as Klexo is going to be the next one to fall to Motelas. This Vex is going to be paying dividends, and Fluke going to be getting popped by Turtwig for a nice 555 gold there. Nice little money move.
I do like big money moves.
Well, I got a business plan for you with a corporate fella. As we're going to be seeing an elastic slingshot onto 2 members on the team. Motelas is going to be in an awkward spot as the crash down into the Magnetize on 5 from 0. He's going to be providing a lot of space, but Klexo does not care. The face shield is going to be going wide. He's going to continue to run it down. Bounce House is in. Fluke is going to be making Pico the next to fall, as it looks like Zero's on the chopping block, knocked into the air, going to be whiffing the elastic slingshot, as Cafe Chocolata has some bendy hands.
Big blunder from Bobo Destroyers. Without all of their champions having level 6 on a partially wombo-dependent comp, they're spending their cooldowns right away. Yasuo was not ready. Again, still just returning the fight. The Shurima Shuffle gets some damage, but Bobo Destroyers are finding nothing to close out their kills. 0 is last man standing, and that's a Rel. And so, multiple desynced combos in a row. A double kill, actually, for 0. And yeah, Bobo Destroyers are not approaching this wombo correctly, and they're kind of rushing some of their cleanup. Of course, the natural consequences to playing ARAM are occurring for Akuma Katanas now, but 2,000 gold lead in the end, and really not that concerned with everybody respawning in this wave position.
Yeah, 3-man Curse of the Sad Mummy, 3-man Shockwave. That's insane. It is one of those things you cannot just let this happen, as an elastic slingshot might be prepped to be able to get something crazy in the making. But Cafe Chocolata gonna chill out for a second, let those Hex Gates roll on in, and we're gonna be seeing some slow play for the next 30-ish seconds from Akuma potentially, as they wait for some of their trigger signals to come up.
Yeah, and waiting for Bobo Destroyers too, waiting for some of their combos, so we're given a moment to assess farm priority, assuming that nothing is huge is going to come from this beyond like 1 kill. Kiko does actually find an ultimate, never mind, they are fully committing, but it's only onto the front line. And so Yasuo is gone.
Pico just took his last
breath. Fight at all. Hakuram dashing forwards here. The Zed Shadow is contributing some damage in the back line as well. Cafe Chocolate forwards on Motelas. Trying to track some of the low HP bars. The shuffle lands only onto a Mumu, which does not result in a kill. Granted, Akuma are all very low HP, but so are Bobo Destroyers. It's really only Pico who's in any good condition to fight. The dive does trade 1 for 1. Yasuo chunked immediately, which is not what you want to see on your most valuable member of this particular team fight. Pico does land a tornado here. Hakarum barely survives. Surviving will amount to nothing.
Let's go!
And almost everybody on the map is dead by the end of when all is said and done. So.
Let's go, Zero! Another double kill! Let's go!
Go! I like violence! Yeah! Combat!
Big old toothpick, gonna floss him with it! Let's go!
Oh. You know, like, everything just happens so abruptly, and I feel like in this particular game, it should not be happening abruptly. These are two compositions, right? That, yeah, two compositions that are very reliant on that! Exactly what we just saw!
That's a wrap.
Akuma Katanas are the ones that find their wombo, because we're seeing some just, like, really, really random engages. Just, like, both comps fishing for combat before their wombo exists, which is not the approach that is orthodox. Right?
That's your favorite thing in Stardew, dude. We're gonna just go fishing, see what we can get out, and then we go into the dungeons. We're gonna be seeing the crash down onto 3 is gonna be able to keep things going a little bit slower. Cafe Chocolata and Klexo dying under this tower as Pico is just dashing everywhere. This is looking like a melee tournament as we're seeing the Graves from downtown able to secure that triple kill, and Sully's the next one to fall. Just a quadra in the back pocket for Tortwig. You know, not as impressive as Zero's double, but you know, it's a quadra still.
Yeah, a really, really good play from Pico to set all of that up. Just taking some of this moment to look at the farm priority. Graves is, in fact, the primary wave clear of Bobo Destroyers. We don't get a moment, though. Like, why would we ever get a moment?
Yeah. No, not allowed.
Necessary deaths for Bobo to cash in their gold, and they do get a turret for their troubles. Zero trying to buy as much time as possible. No good denial on the wave. But Tella's being alive does actually... Oh, never mind. I've forgotten that we don't have a tier 1 turret here. So that is going to be an ace for Akuma as well. Who are, resuming my point, funneling most of their income into the Yone, which actually shows me that they have so much farm priority, or like so much combat priority, right, that they don't even have to consider just giving it to the wave clear.
Oh, the Emperor's Revive just set up for such a good fate sealed, and it's going to be running them down. As we see Motelis and Zero, they decided once again to be able to take the Hex game. Motelis with the ult to be able to try to get some space, but they end up flashing straight back into Klexo. Fluke's going to be killing them. As Cafe Chocolata, he has passive. He's okay tanking this tower. Fluke, though, might be falling in just a moment, but the ball's going to keep them up as we have the staggered deaths causing another ace. More towers are going to fall. And Akuma Katanas are in such a good spot. You have to be so scared of the elastic slingshot, so scared of this bandage. And Klexo, he's having a good time. There it is! Let's go, Tortwig from downtown as the bandage is going to be coming out. The Curse of Sad Money completely whiffs. Pico going for what he can. The double last breath into an ace for Bobo. They have a little bit of life left here, if Pico has anything to say about it.
Yeah, Akuma opting into the immediate refights, and unfortunately not able to trade as much HP back, so they do just end up dying for no real value, giving Bobo, like, some small opportunity. Of course, was a necessary death. We do have to contend with some of these, like, very strong items on the board as well. The scary thing about a Yasuo and ARAM, though, you get your 10 death power spike very immediately. Will we see it in action here? Vex is actually killed to death instantaneously. There's no combo on the side of Bobo Destroyers, as we're seeing everything break off into very small skirmishes. Pico caught by the Fate Seal and the Shockwave simultaneously. Klexo is dueling Tortwig. Certainly has a lot more damage as Graves versus Yone. And just slowly, it wasn't even really a team fight if you look at it and squint your eyes the right way. It is simply Akuma Katanas out skirmishing, sacrificing Klexo for Tortwig, fully stacked Grit. Fully stacked Grit
That's a gore drinker on him.
Not into Oriana.
I just noticed Tortwig has a gore drinker. They were ready to be up close and personal at all stages to just kite with the extra health and try to run amok with it. As it looks like Pico, they're going to be just running this one down. Hakarum all over the map. that man listened to Silver Scripts one too many times. As here comes the crash down to the double last breath. But the elastic slingshot is going to be keeping Fluke from going. The Emperor's Divide goes wide. Exhaust. So Mighty Kraus can only hit them with wet tissue paper. As Zero's going to be trying to run around with Ferromancy to stall out a little bit longer. But Fluke, he's chilling. There's no stress there, as Sully and Cafe Chocolata are going to be making sure Moteles does not have a good time, and it's all down to Tortwig to try to keep this together. The Black Cleaver is going to cause so much damage onto these tankier guys, but Sully going to be surviving the Graves Ult, and we're going to be seeing a lot of stunning, as Sully is going to be the next one to fall actually before Tortwig goes down. Fluke just before he can get the Shockwave, so Pico going to be drawing out another exhaust, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think we're going to be seeing this one in the bag for Akuma in just a second here. We don't have access to the Emperor's Divide. Zero going to be stalling for what time they can. The Elastic Slingshot going to be stopping the crash down, but the Magnetize good. Three-man face sealed under this tower is going to be able to see so much come out. Klexo going to be missing some things. Stunned out. They're going to be the next to fall. The death mark pops. Motelis is going down. Hakaram is not long for this world. That is a successful base defense coming out from Bobo Destroyers with just Motelis and Zero alongside Mighty Kraus.
Yeah, but although they've slain Akuma Katanas, that is a very, very comfortable death for that squad. Like, taking out much of Bobo Destroyers, dying directly under the tier 3 turrets. There is, like, the wave clear is dead. You only really have Graves, and you have to punch through the super minions too, right? They have time to set up on these bushes as well. Right? And it is really starting to feel like all Akuma have to do is take out Pico, and take out Pico they shall. Tortwig is not going to survive much longer. Zero is alive, but doesn't have any of the wave clear. And that, you have to imagine, is all she wrote. Just two mages stand between Akuma Katanas and victory, provided that their push is fast enough.
So much faster a game coming out of this one than that intro. And not even just when we're talking about death timers. I think this was been a lot more tame than last game as far as that goes. Just taking the general objectives has been so much smoother for Akuma Katanas, whereas they had to really grind their gears into it. As we're seeing another bandit from Sully go wide, we might be seeing them go for another cheeky little tower dive when everyone comes back. Zero on their lonesome with a magnetize onto 3 into the last breath, but the exhaust is going to be keeping Pico from doing much of anything. They have a pool noodle to be able to make this happen. They're going to be next to fall. Fluke is going to be taken out. The Fate Seal going to go wide, but it does not matter. Motelis does not have the health to be able to sustain a Klexco right on their forehead. Mighty Kraus in a 1v2 with the tanks is going to be the next to fall. The Emperor's Divide saved him a little bit. Klexo going down to Tortwig, who has a good health bar to start trying to run into these tanks. So Sully, Cafe Chocolata, we're going to chill on the inhib. Here comes the Cavalry. Zero going to be stunning them up. That's another one going down. Cafe Chocolata, they have passive. They have a lot of time that they can save here. And Tortwig going to be prioritizing taking them out in a second here. The reload is huge. So Cafe Chocolata is just going to be a thorn in the sides a little bit longer. Here's the bounce house. They're just going to sustain this one for a while. And no one hit for them.
That Zach lived for such a long time. And just building off your point about how smooth the turret takes are for Akuma Katanas, it really does feel like, up until that one fight that we just saw, like, it really is off the back of Bobo Destroyers just misplaying their composition a lot more than they did in Game 1. We are seeing better ability to wombo here, but we're also seeing that same ability to wombo from Akuma Katanas, as is evident on the screen. Curse of the Sad Mummy hits every single survivor left. Klexo is trivially cleaning up. Hakaram forwards as well. It's actually a quadra kill for the Zed, I believe. Somebody stole the here. Right? And that's
not important.
Pretty much just the name of this game, right? Like, Bobo Destroyers are once in a while finding the wombo they want, but we keep seeing their champions getting picked off. We keep seeing Akuma Katanas striking first, and just they never really got to keep the tempo. They just fell behind in a meaningful way a lot earlier than they did in Game 1, which is a little bit scary for their chances going forwards in this series, right? Not to say that they're regressing, because clearly they are able to learn from their mistakes. As we're watching this base defense here, Motelis is taken out, right? But Exposed Nexus, no matter how well you're playing the defense, is really, really hard to recover from an ARAM.
Yeah, I mean, the triple knocks from Klexo with the Mortal Steel into Curse of the Sad Mummy has been huge fairly consistently, as we're just going to watch Fluke dance around. The Shockwave Flash, that's so pretty. you know, you had to show us something pretty eventually, but that's not when you want to see it. As we're seeing, respawn timers kind of staggered.
I think that's objectively the funniest move Orianna has in her toolkit. Like the
I mean,
self
buffering your ult a little bit is pretty dope, yeah.
Yeah.
But Zero, you know, they're not nearly as tanky as Sully. They're not that guy trying to tank that tower. Black Cleaver chunking him. Hakuram made an interesting decision, but they're not going to get punished potentially. The mark is there. Zero, with the toothpick, they're just going to drop that right into the Giant's eye. The Emperor's Divide going to be able to keep the Bounce House from stopping the Shuriman's Sorcerer, but the flash into the Curse of the Sad Mummy onto 4 is going to be making this quite awkward two-man with the Fate Seal. Glexo is going to just clean this fight up. They're getting mobbed. A double kill into the hands of Sully as Tortwig is on the back foot, but they're the only one up for another 20 seconds yet. This is not where you want to be with an exposed Nexus into one of the Wind Boys. But here we have it. It looks like Akuma Katanas are going to be just taking this game home.
Yeah, Akuma have both a significant damage and durability advantage, and that spells disaster in every fight. Pico only finding Zac with the ultimate at the end there. Only one defender here as well, and it is the 17 death Yasuo. Game number 2 goes to the side of Akuma in a very, very convincing win with over a 20 kill lead.
That is rough. We're just gonna file that one as a that's tough, Your Honor.
I mean, yeah, there's really not much more to say beyond in a game mode that is very based on the tempo that you spend. Bobo Destroyers lost it almost immediately just off how they handled their level 6 spikes, right? It's true on Summoner's Rift, it's true on Howling Abyss. There are champions whose first ultimates really define the game, and it would seem that, like, if you're building a wombo comp in this context, that is absolutely the case, right?
Yeah.
When Zac is effectively the only champion, or sorry, when Yasuo is effectively the only champion able to DPS Zac and Amumu because Azir is just permanently under so much threat, right? It's so hard to threaten anybody. I don't think I saw X-Fluke, like, in any danger for, like, most of that game, right?
You know, they were chilling. X-Fluke's positioning has consistently been really good around some very awkward fights, so I wouldn't have expected anything else out of them picking up that Orianna, just managing their ball placement to be able to continue to have very consistent damage in those fights, and come out pretty big with their Shockwave, since they have some reliable couriers. But it's just one of those things. You have to be able to find your way to inch into those picks. We had some really good last breaths come out, but there's no other big enough damage threat where the exhaust went anywhere other than Yasuo. So, effectively, they had a flaccid pool noodle in a sword fight.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've seen my pool party Figueres go 0-10 before, and we know how pool noodles fare in fights like that.
Yeah.
Not even the Yasuo 10 death power spike could compensate. So, yeah, there's, like, no way to sugarcoat it. A very rough game for Bobo Destroyers. And there were moments of brilliance that, like, kind of showed us that this team has potential, but just under the constraints of snowballs on this map, they're just going to have to look to game 3 to keep their chances alive. They're going to just have to look almost to find their own snowball, right? Because even with the pike on their side, even with the snowball, so far they're just getting outfought. So I want to see what's in their next pool for game number 3. I want to see if they're able to find, like, kind of damage threats that are more effective into the champions that Akuma Katanas are rolling. Hopefully, for the sake of Bobo, Akuma Katanas rolls a less dominant front line, because that's really what's been giving them trouble so much in the series so far, right? The Pike not able to penetrate the front line, the Yasuo and the Vex not really able to do anything, while the Graves is just perma-threatened at his effective range. So, you know, you're hoping for a little bit of luck, but luck notwithstanding, we need to see, like, some adaptation with, like, how they're picking from their pools into a front line like this, and how they're approaching their method of, like, generating a snowball, like, their coordination, like, just little gameplay fixes, little draft fixes, and we may have a competitive series, right?
I mean, we are playing in 2023 where Ornn's an enchanter and Anivia's a tank, so anything can happen.
I love the creativity that can be on display on this map too. Just
Yeah.
I wanna
I
see
mean,
some of it.
those are on the Rift actually.
Yeah, like the tank and Nivea top thing. The
Mm,
specialist pick of all time.
yeah, Ornn full enchanter support. It's give me my magical girl Ram Jam for
Don't.
Bobo Destroyers. It will bring them to the finals.
And now, as much as I could and would 100% get in a long side tangent about that because I love talking about like the cringe in this game, right? We do still have to see whether Bobo Destroyers are
Yeah.
able to turn this around, and to know if they're able to, we have to be able to see their pools. So we're going to go to a quick break to get those pools on screen for you guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll see if this is the game that closes out the inaugural split of the VAS, or if Bobo Destroyers have some fight in them for their Lord Bobo. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the VAS Grand Finals, ladies and gentlemen. As a reminder, my name is Quintic. I'm here with Demented Loki, and we are providing coverage for what could be the final game of the entire split. Now, the pools for both teams are on screen. We were trying to figure out whether Bobo Destroyers would have something that they could kind of regain their coordination on, but first, we have some interesting picks on Akuma Katanas.
Yeah, Akuma Katanas has just a lot of ways to play around each other and just generally shut down a lot of things that Bobo Destroyers enjoys doing. I like the Cassiopeia pick as far as a bursty controlling mage would go for first and slot, just because the miasma can take up so much of the map, avoid dealing with any real movement tools that you'd be worried about, a Rel Crashdown, a Pantheon W, a Vi Assault Battery, or Tryndamere, Rekton, anyone wanting to run around other than maybe a Ziggs if Bobo Destroyers went that route. That is already just such a strong pick for being able to flex into most comps that Bobo Destroyers would want to be grabbing here, especially. And we saw Klexo has a very dominant Aurelia play. Once they give the mouse a little cookie, they took a kingdom. Good job. Brother Ivan is here. And that is pretty spooky to deal with. And they don't... I don't know, we also saw them pilot Yone as just a very convincing setup, alongside being able to get the Amumu onto, I believe it was Sully played it last game, and we saw them have a lot of value out of those Curse of the Sad Mummies. We had a lot of Bandage Toss value, just very well-piloted run for going into those team fight wombos. So, some dangerous options on this table.
Yeah, especially since having greater access to DPS has been one of Akuma Katana's advantages in the previous games too, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just been about the teamfight wombo, it's also been about, as you mentioned, the Cyrelia, and so like using the Zeri, using the Cassiopeia in the same way, like supplemented by one of our kings of ARAM during this tournament, the Pike, right? It is a frightening pool to deal with, of course, one noteworthy weakness, the fact that a Mumu is the only possible frontline option here, unless you wanted to go into like some off-meta like Bruiser Rengar, like Tank Bel'Veth, like something like that, but more than likely that's not the direction they want to take, because like we're not in the kind of ARAM anymore where you've been forced into these like weird options to cover team fight niches, right? Now, as for Bobo Destroyers, right, what are they going to do to overcome these outstanding DPS picks? Well, they've got a Malphite, they've got a Rel. Likely with the follow-up they have access to, they're not going to take both, right? Because they also have, they've got access to a ton of marksmen on top of Ziggs, like Ziggs being the most DPS-centric artillery mage that we have in the game, right? Senna, who has consistently been a pretty good performer into low range, low frontline compositions. When some of the most dominant threats are, of course, Cassiopeia and Zeri, of course, only really weak to the Victor on the side of Katanas, right? Tristana, consistent DPS. And so if you're like introducing like a Tryndamere or a Renekton or one of these bruiser picks to drive the game forwards alongside the tank, like playing for the chunk and getting these champions to pop off from the back, like Bobo Destroyers have a very stable foundation they can build from. They have like honestly a ton of different options. So I'm interested to see how they want to tech into the options of Akuma Katanas.
Yeah. As far as these options go, we have some picks that very much radiate what these players have been about. Like Pico, I could see them picking up that Sona instead. I could see them grabbing into... I could maybe see them getting into that Zillion and just saying you can't kill you in this one. But we also have like Cafe Chocolata. They do like those snowballs. They do really like pushing a really big boulder uphill. So we see that Pike, we see that Rengar, we see that Samira, just these things that scratch the brain goo like a little lottery ticket and just run it up. Like, these things are very tempting, but we saw Cafe Chocolata take the back seat a couple times with that Zac, and earlier even with the Amumu, and it's paid off really well.
Yeah, for sure. It is easier by a lot to play the game when you have a solid front line on a map that is pretty much all about consistent team fighting, right? Just for the sake of like checking like all of our bases, we should do a wave clear check as well. And it's funny that like, it's funny that like we can look at the state of ARAM and Sona is not the first thing that comes to mind, right? Where
Yeah.
I'm significantly
It's kind of nice to be there.
Yeah, true. Like I'm significantly more interested in this Ziggs and this Victor, right? But is that really it? Is that like actually the only
Mm,
wave clear options that either team has? Like Trist is on the table with bombs,
I
right?
mean, Vi is also just a very consistent front line, being able to get some poke damage off with their right hook there.
That would be so funny if we're using like a lethality Vi to like push the wave
Yeah,
forwards and like kind of find some picks. Probably not the most common
yeah.
option, but I'm
Oh,
interested to
Lord,
just
no.
see like which options they've chosen at this point. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, Bruiser Vi does also have pretty good wave clear, and yeah, I would agree. Let's pop on in and see what we're gonna be hopping off with.
Okay, so actually, we have both successfully called out some options that the teams did want to go for. The Vi is picked. So Bobo
Nice.
Destroyers have actually locked in a core of Vi, Sona, Ziggs, Senna, and one champion that went completely under our radar in the Pantheon, kind of filling that niche that either the
Ooh.
Renekton or the Tryndamere would have fulfilled as well, providing
Mhm.
some more consistent backline access as well, which I'm interested to see, like supported by
If
two artillery options in Dawning Shadow and like Inferno Bomb, right? Meanwhile,
I
oh sorry, go ahead.
I see Cafe Chocolata did the thing that I was hoping they wouldn't do. What are we doing with Belveth here?
Yeah, so
Whoa.
on the other side, Akuma Katanas have grabbed up Zeri, Belveth, Twisted Fate, Amumu, and Gwen. And this is a meaningfully lower damage composition than what they've been running before. Belveth is a champion that, thrives in the early game just by having more access to her Qs, but who in the context of full 5v5 like kind of takes some time and some items to really flourish. I wonder if it's like a tankier build or if like she is just trying to play for these repeated skirmishes. But yeah, so Akuma Katanas have gone in a direction we absolutely did not expect. Significantly lower damage than kind of their competitors on Bobo Destroyers. And throughout this series, that has been a big difference maker in
Hmm.
favor of Akuma Katanas that may now get Bobo Destroyers their first win. So I'm personally advocating for a game 4 here. I'm predicting that we're going to have a series on our hands.
This could be exciting.
Right. So,
But
um,
before we
exactly. Before we go,
yeah, before we go, since there's a chance for game 4 on the horizon, we'll keep it nice and calm. Little spiritual question for you. Which rock do you think is the saddest when it falls in the middle of the forest?
which rock is the saddest? I have to like draw on like third grade geology knowledge now.
We're an
Oh
educational stream.
wow! No, yeah, we're about to have some really riveting educational action here, but we're also going to have a very exciting game number 3 where it is do or die for Bobo Destroyers. So don't go anywhere. The VAS will return. Welcome back, everybody. It is do or die for the Bobo Destroyers in Game 3 of the VAS. Will they secure their first win and keep the series alive, or will Akuma Katanas just immediately start a team fight and get a kill, first blood, onto Hakuram? Well, I guess that answers that question, right? Right before the game started, we were asked probably the most bewildering pre-game question that I've ever gotten, with the, which is the saddest rock to fall in a forest, right? I don't know if you've ever played Legends of Runeterra, Loki, but Malphite has a son. His name is Chip, and he's the best. And I think he's the saddest rock to fall over because he has feelings, and hurting Chip is a capital punishment-worthy crime. So, I think it would just break my heart.
So you're saying rocks don't have feelings now? That's really insensitive to Malphite, you know?
I am, you know. I think Malphite can handle falling a little bit, but Chip is a baby, you know, almost as precious as Bobo himself.
Listen, I was able to take a fall as a baby. He'll be fine.
Let's check in on the actual state of this game, and I do want to point out, as I've just noticed that some of our borders have mysteriously vanished. Zero, who's been on tank duty the entire game, is actually the one piloting the Pantheon here. Kind of using him as a pseudo-tank, introducing more damage to the composition, which I think is a really interesting adaptation from the side of Bobo Destroyers, just in terms of what their players have been comfortable playing so far.
Yeah, it's definitely a really cool switch, and I would like to also point out a transition we've seen more and more as these ARM series have gone on. People are just prioritizing so much these Guardians items, and it's really nice to see there's a lot of value to be had in those starting items. So we're going to be seeing the gold card go onto the wrong member, but Fluke is going to get Mighty Kraus anyway. That's tough. Shutdown going to be getting traded back into Tortwig's pocket, and Sully's just going to, you know, waddle away a little bit into their early grave, but, you know, waddled away nonetheless.
Yeah, it's looking like we're getting one of those Chaos games, just like game number 1, where both teams will eventually have access to wave clear, but they simply do not yet. So they're playing for PvP, they're playing for these Bel'Veth above and belows, like dashing forwards. We're waiting for the extra Q. Is Klexo able to clean up? No, but, I mean, that chunk, the damage is dealt. It's not like Senna is going to be fully sustaining everything on this map with the healing debuffs.
I mean, it's definitely necessary evil. The Void Surge from Cafe Chocolata is a lot of wave clear along with the above and belows. So if they wanted to play for that, they definitely have the avenue to do it. But we can see them getting some Coral in a second here. Sully's going to be able to get the bandage on a Mighty Kraus, but the Blast Pack going to be putting it into a spot where Cafe Chocolata does not get to become a snowball goddess quite yet. Coral's just out of reach.
A bit of oh, Curse of the Sad Mummy. I'm not allowed to get a point. We have Pantheon's Grand Starfall channeling while his team is getting engaged onto and dying. And Mighty Kraus shows up just in time to defend some damage from the turrets, but... Oh, a loss of gold. I was actually just about to comment on the Luden's direction from Mighty Kraus. Had a Blasting Wand in inventory, and I was going to criticize it, because we were expecting, you know, in general, Ziggs is not a very bursty champion as far as mages go. Actually sold the Blasting Wand for a Fiendish Codex so we can get into Leandri's. That is going to create kind of an artificial gold lead for Akuma, and they already have a very real gold lead, especially as we keep finding these fights. Though, with all said and done,
Rip Coral.
The only really damage that is healthy enough to fully fistfight is Klexo right now. So, Bobo Destroyers are able to kind of, you know, find some combat without spending too much HP, which is definitely good.
Oh, poor Klexo. Sully with a bandage, though. We're able to get the gold onto Zero. This might be good. The Void Surges are in the above and below. Cafe Chocolata is going to be able to make that one fall. There goes the Void Coral. The Flash Gold card onto Motelas. They end up squeaking their way out. Not quite able to get popped here. And there's a lot of pressure with a gold card in the hand of Fluke that seems to get lost with the way that the rest of the team set up. Hakuram is going to go trading 1-for-1, but that's a shutdown. They're giving more gold on over to the Mad Bomberman. Sully's going to be the next one to fall. Zero's going straight on in. Shields up. No one cares. Get behind me. It's like a little Braum cosplay all over again on our tank players. Klexo is going to be getting a little bit of damage back, but the spear from downtown is going to be sending them on their way. And we're going to get back to stacking some souls on them with us.
Yeah, we'll actually have to start keeping track of that. Right now, we are on 35 at only 5 minutes. Definitely good pace for the Senna. Actually, so I can... Yeah, let's get this on screen. There you go, guys.
Yeah. Little stonking. So how do you feel about stonking champs in air? Never mind, Sully with a one-man curse of the sad mummy. You needed to land onto more, my friend. Tortwig's able to get the kill. Kliko able to bring something back with Pleakley, but the exhaust is going to be able to keep Klexo from getting more, as that's a double kill being grabbed from Tortwig in that 1v4 scenario. Zero's on an inch of health, as the Mad Bomberman's going to be able to pop a couple short fuses. The above and below onto Katanas with the Void Surge pop out. This Grand Starfall does end up taking them out, and the shield is up to keep Cafe Chocolata from being able to do anything. Zero is piloting it insanely well on this Pantheon.
To clean up 2 kills on that HP is such a valuable thing on ARAM. But if we are talking about like kind of these like scaling champions, some of these stacking champions, like how much value are we getting from infinite value, right? We are definitely watching an era of ARAM that is far less forgiving to the scaling comps. I think we can agree that the Beatdown is generally the team that has been winning 9 out of 10 times, right? Because if you ever get some breathing room, that breathing room is quickly taken away by the Hex Gates. It is a permanent fight, right? So... I think Veigar has slightly less value than he used to. I think Senna has slightly less value than she used to. But at the same time, like, these are the champions that scale via combat very quickly. And, right, kind of like why Victor is also a champion that is like, faux scaling on this mode. Just because he gets his augments so quickly, he's immediately a threat. I'm not 100% convinced by the Sona, although maybe Pico will prove me wrong later in the game as the items start coming online. But the champions like Senna, like I do think are strong in the format to a degree, like within reason, right?
Yeah.
Hexgate taking speaking of Hexgates.
Something we missed as once again Sully's getting popped. They have Dark Harvest this time.
Yeah, it's actually there's a Night Harvester completed on the Amumu. We do not care about frontlining with how squishy Bobo Destroyers are. We care about like just getting in and dealing damage.
It's still an interesting pickup the way that they've been running these fights. We're going to be seeing a little bit of a cleanup coming in from Hakorum. They have a triple kill in their back pocket with the Zip, Zap, and Rocket, but Tortwig is going to be almost getting them popped from a Ziggs bomb. Cafe Chocolata in a very awkward spot is going to be seeing their friend go down in a moment here. And Mighty Kraus does not have a lot of health to try to hold this wave, and Klexo is actually going to fluke popped him with the gold card instead. That's first tower going on. We got Bowson's Law. You know, maybe Akuma just kind of snakes their way out with this.
What's funny is that we are actually seeing some flavor of tank Bel'Veth because everybody else on the side of Akuma is building as offensively as possible. We see the rate. So this Radiant Virtue tech has actually popped up on Bel'Veth in Summoner's Rift, and it's something that I still have yet to understand, so I'm not going to comment too deeply on it. But it would appear that they are expecting Bel'Veth to have 1 takedown per fight, like off the back of like the solely engage. It looks like that is exactly what is coming true right now. Tortwig is under threat. The Soda Crescendo does delay the fight, but Zero is the first one down. Cafe Chocolata not yet able to proc the Radiant Virtue, ultimately not going to in the end. Tortwig not able to get to the wave either. Hackram is defending it very well, so they're relying right now on Mighty Cross's poke. It is a kill for Tortwig. It is a triple kill for Tortwig, in fact. Another hit directly onto Hakuram. Going to back out on a sliver of HP. Dead, actually, to the Zeri Flash. Hakuram claims that shutdown right away. And there are very low HP bars on everybody. Zero using the Mortal Will E to actually get into the combat faster. And just a bunch of kills traded back and forth. Ultimately, not really demonstrating my point at all about Bel'Veth, unfortunately.
Yeah, the crescendo onto 2, being able to disrupt Cafe Chocolata as well as Sully was just huge. But we're going to be seeing Mighty Kraus is going to fall. We have the Void Queen at the ready now. Consumed a little bit of coral, is going to be able to dash their way, but does not have the damage secured on their own or the sustain yet to be able to be up there. But with 1,000 cuts from Klexo, with that at the ready with Gwen, was able to get some damage down. But it looks like Motelis and Tortwig are going to run them down. Pico is just dancing on a razor's edge with some of these ranges, though.
Tortwig is actually a menace in this game so far. Extremely fed on the buy, just punching everybody in the face.
Yeah. Listen, I don't care about yo magic stuff. Square the hell up, you know?
Do you think you could take Belveth in a fight? Like, just...
I think she would eat me and I'd say thank you.
Oh, alright. Well, we're gonna move on then. If I speak, I will be cancelled.
We're getting into some dangerous territory, but that actually, no, Belveth looks way more like, you know, Nemo's professor from the start of the movie, you know, that manta ray if he lost his kids in a divorce.
if the movie were about him instead, rather than the clownfish getting eaten.
Honey, I lost the kids, the manta ray. But we're seeing Sully just absolutely dash to ribbons every single time they pop a bandage. This is a really rough spot to be in. Having the Dark Harvest, you really have to play for this, but Tortwig, they don't care. The Assault and Battery into Motelis is always going to be able to pop them. Cafe Chocolate able to get a reclaim kill, but can't get the coral in their mouth quite in time to be able to get a heal. Klexo going to be trying to be able to fight back for some space. The needlework going out. That's a lot of damage on Motelis. The snip going to be able to get them ripped from this plane as Cafe Chocolate with the Radiant Virtue able to sustain a little bit more going in on their lonesome though. So now it's down to Fluke as we got to see Hakarom also get absolutely destroyed the moment that we left him alone for a second. Zero is a huge damage threat in these spots, but Sully, with the bandage charge going a bit wide, things might be rough. Here comes the Curse of the Sad Mummy onto two. Mighty Kraus just still so healthy. There's the exhaust. Sully almost doesn't get the kill because of it. That is a scary thing to see when you're relying on Dark Harvest and Moo for this damage, as we're going to be seeing another kill going on over. And once again, Cafe Chocolate above and below, they're just all going into the blender on repeat, please.
It's a rough Hexgate for sure. Yeah, we're watching Tortwig really understand how to die on ARAM, getting a ton of damage onto everybody, setting up Bobo Destroyers for a very, very successful series of fights. We're watching the strength of Ziggs, something that we haven't actually talked about before, just how he's able to pressure down the turrets disproportionately.
Yeah, 30% of their health doesn't exist.
Yeah, just immediately. Tier 2 is gone, Inhibitor is gone. And just for such a minor, like, what would ordinarily be a minor punish in a situation is just blown out of proportion with this champion, like, pressing things down. He's got Death Cap completed. Every single auto attack is melting turrets. So, honestly, if Akuma Katanas are not able to stabilize here, and it is difficult with the inhibitor deficit, Ziggs is probably just going to end the game on a single push.
I think this is the first time I've seen Duskblade Senna. And Motelis has been kind of popping with it, so like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just an interesting tech in this go-around.
Yeah, worth noting that it's not going to amplify the damage of any like regular auto attacks, which is a meaningful part of her damage. So, of the lethality options, probably the least common for a reason. That said, the damage is definitely coming through. So is Ziggs's though. The bomb followed by Dawning Shadow is just setting up Tortwig to run directly forwards. Gets a kill before the health rally comes forward, setting up Motelis to flash forwards. Grand Starfall is giving... It's actually a Throne Spear, whiffs, stunned up onto Twisted Fate, and now Ziggs is, fortunately for Akuma, dead. But these are some long death timers for ARAM. There is a possible Hexgate flank.
Oh, at least one tower's gone there, though.
It's one tower gone, probably 2 towers gone. It is 2 towers gone solely with the damage. Are we able to do anything? Curse of the Sad Mummy is available. One shot before the ultimate comes out! Oh my god, it's over!
It's Jover!
That was so abrupt! Like, we knew it would be good for Bobo Destroyers, but not like that!
Yeah, Bobo just kind of ran their pockets there. Good on them. I think the Duskblade from Senna was mostly to have that survivability when you get... Because it's fairly inevitable that Senna is able to pick up a couple assists. So being able to duck out once you do is pretty strong. But I want to point out that Zero has 21 kills and Tortwig grabbed 17. So between them, that's 38 of the 55 kills that happened on these very strong frontline bursty kinds of champions. And I don't think Dark Harvest and Moo was the play here, if I'm honest. It's just, you are so squishy into people who are going to be very coordinated. I think I saw 2 or 3 good Curse of the Sad Mummies, but just not enough follow-up on your burst because your burst didn't get online. And a lot of dysfunctional team fighting from Akuma where they just were trickling in one by one like there were Minutemen marching in a row.
Yeah, it looks almost as though Akuma did identify that their composition was lower damage than it had been before. But I mean, it is now the theme of the series where certain champions are getting completely stifled by frontliners, right? And so solely not able to actually push the game forwards into Tortwig and Zero having a standout performance. Yeah, I'm just it is nice to see Bobo Destroyers recover in this series for sure. I frankly don't have like too much more to say about it in terms of like post game analysis because I'm looking at some of these numbers here, right? Just trying to find any other interesting talking points.
I mean, Pico had some really good crescendos.
Yeah,
Or just
no,
stopping the engage from Soli, stopping Cafe Chocolata, and Klexo gets popped after, and just avoiding a lot of those really scary champions from getting off the ground. It's got its merit there.
So Sona, even though she is in a meaningfully nerfed state on the map, is in a meaningfully nerfed state for a reason on the map, right? I mean, she does work just so well conceptually in ARAM. Yeah, so it seems like the short range of Akuma bit them in the end. Crescendo stifles, right? Ziggs pressure. Incredible yeah, and so it boils down kind of to that, and I'm not really willing to comment further if I don't have like more to contribute to the conversation, right? Bobo Destroyers win! Hooray!
Woo! We got a series!
We have a series! We love series. Now, I, for one, am really curious to see how this series ends, and I am itching to start analyzing some new pools for sure. Like, take a break, refresh my brain, talk about some more ARAM, because we've had some very interesting conversations tonight. We've had a very interesting split tonight, and welcome back, everybody. I would like to just take a moment to profusely apologize for, again, the technical difficulties that we're having tonight that keep disconnecting us between games and kind of just disrupting some of the flow of the broadcast. If you are meaningfully desynced from our stream, make sure to hit the pause button and hit play. Again, that usually resolves a lot of the client-side issues on Twitch that come from disconnects or latency issues or anything like that. But fortunately, we've been completely stable during the game, so I think, you know, if superstition holds, if we speed through this analysis pretty quickly and get into the game, there should be no more issues ever again, right? I hope so. So anyway, Loki, yeah, if you could kind of take us away with what Bobo Destroyers have access to as they're trying to maintain their momentum in this series.
Yeah, so right now I'm looking like at Alistar, I'm looking at Silas as far as like where we're gonna place Zero, because Zero's been mostly the tanky goober, but we did see a very convincing performance on Pantheon. But they might just surprise me and slip a little bit of pizzazz in there and have them on Jax, another one of those beefy frontliners who can offer a lot of DPS out of what seems to be nowhere once in a while, and continue to just hold the team on their back for a little bit and run their way through. An exciting pick that I see on Akuma Katanas, though, is honestly, I love Gangplank. I don't know about you, but I love the little pirate boy. Being able to randomly one-shot 3 people from a bush, it's a great time, makes my monkey lizard brain go boom.
Yeah, I mean, that's a champion whose primary counterplay is to gank him and get him behind early in a format with no real ganks. Granted, we don't want Gangplank, like, actually team fighting early into the game, but, like, look at the rest of what Akuma Katanas are offering here, right? That is a pure aggression, right? There's a ton of auto attackers. It's all, like, primarily melee carries. A Nico present in the... Like, there's a Nico Yasuo combo available to them.
I didn't even notice the Nico.
You know, although the only orthodox frontliner is Shen, who is really just designed in this position to put an R on somebody else making a play, Akuma Katanas are really threatening to just push forwards and forwards and forwards and forwards. Now, that does make the Jax that you pointed out, like, actually pretty effective into what they're offering. You know, the only thing he'd be, like, extremely vulnerable to is, like, a Gangplank barrel, as you mentioned. But as for the rest of the team, like, what options do Bobo Destroyers have to absorb this obvious incoming pressure, right? I see an Aphelios, who is typically a good anchor if he's able to get off the ground. I see a Zyra and a Nami, who typically, like, who do offer some pretty decent disengage. Zyra offering some of her own poke damage on top of that to tax their health bars before Akuma Katanas has to kind of engage. That said, like, the front line that they're standing in front of, the single target Rammus into what is almost guaranteed a 5-threat composition. Dr. Mundo is basically a tertiary carry, right? You're relying very, very heavily on, I mean, this Alistar, as you pointed out, pretty much has to be drafted, right? Like, Alistar must be present, there has to be more disengage, and then we get to the question of what your playmaking looks like if you're going in that direction, because we certainly don't want to play just off of, like, Warwick Infinite Duress, a champion who is very poor in these mismatched fights, right? It is an awkward, scary, but potentially playable pool for Bobo Destroyers as long as they recognize the only direction that Akuma Katanas can actually go into, right? I mean, like, that being said, they could throw us a curveball and actually give us, like, full scaling, like, Gangplank Victor, like, Shen, something.
That would be funny. You know, you just pop an orange and it's okay. You know, that's at least what it's supposed to be, right? That heals broken bones.
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't even mention how Victor is, like, not actually a scaling champion in this mode. Like, he just comes online immediately, right? So actually, the more I look at it, the more likely I think it is that Akuma Katanas will just stick a Victor in their composition behind everybody else and go wild. Assuming, like, because are you really that concerned about damage distribution, like, just to have Victor and Nico or something? I think Nico is almost guaranteed, right? Like, as the playmaker.
Yeah, that Pop Blossom gives a lot of utility, and their just general roots are pretty insane. I want to see some minion shenanigans, though. If they pop the Nico, find some way to get one of your minions killed off and push up faking that you're its corpse, you know? Just put on your minion skin suit.
Yeah, it's too bad there's not a lot of abilities that Nico can actually dodge as a minion on the side of Bobo Destroyers, because those are, like, the most fun Nico plays to watch. They're so stupid, and I just love that they exist. Yeah, so the last thing I really want to bring up is we've seen Vex have some presence in this series, and she kind of did just outright look like a support within the context of these games. This is a noticeably squishier Akuma Katanas this time around. Do you think there's going to be any value for this champion on the side of Bobo Destroyers?
So, I like Vex as a ranged like a mage on your backline, but I would prefer we take Zyra for the disengage. It's almost guaranteed that we have an Alistar and or Jax, because these are just really simple to slot in. You'd think about Cho'Gath if you wanted to scale, but that's not gonna be really a big thing that we're looking for. So to that effect, I would be looking more for a bursty Sylas, because Sylas is able to sustain through a lot of things that you throw at him, even on his squishiest builds, and be able to pump out a lot of consistent damage to be able to chunk people out. And he's pretty decent at those staggered fights, because the Kingslayer is a huge heal that if they're going to have a staggered fight, he's able to get it off quite a few extra times. So, well, there's a lot of options.
Loki, I think you are going to be very, very happy with what Bobo Destroyers have decided to run then.
Why?
So, first of all, just as we're getting there, I've opened up the file. We're almost ready to go.
Okay.
Akuma Katanas have locked in Lucian, Gangplank, Gwen, Shen, and Victor. So actually, they are really using Gwen's forward positioning and just Shen as a concept as their primary initiator. Given that, of course, one thing that I, for some reason, overlooked is that Shen has access to Mark and can be a playmaker. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
So
Lucian's weird.
Yeah, I mean, marksman option is, like, there's very limited setup for Samira, so if they just wanted some extra range DPS, like something aggressive to follow up at Shen's effective mark range, then I think it makes some sense, right? It helps to provide, like, extra wave clear to supplement Victor right before he gets all his kills and while they're waiting for Gangplank, so I get it. But in the meantime, like, as we're kind of, like, thinking through that as the game is starting, Bobo Destroyers have elected to lock in Sylas, Aphelios, Jax, Alistar, and Zyra. So we were pretty bang on with what Bobo Destroyers like would want to go towards, like identifying a lot of the counter engage, knowing that Akuma Katanas have to move in. Granted, they are moving in slightly less committally than we expected them to with like this triple ranged composition.
This could be pretty fun to watch. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say Tortwig picked up the Silas instead of going for Jax, though. That seems more to speed right now.
It is Tortwig Silas, and it is 0 on the Alistar. Right.
Oh, my boy! I wanted to see him on Jax if he wasn't going to be on Silas. He piloted Pantheon really well. I think he earned a cookie.
Yeah, this is actually Mighty Krause's Jax. Right.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, quick, we're in purgatory. I need to get out of the scene before we have like another crazy crash or something. So please, just give me the question, please.
All right, so out of all of the champions in the league, who do you think would be the worst roommate?
Oh, I've got an entire list for this. We'll figure out what's on my list after the break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to game number 4 of the VAS Grand Finals in our inaugural split. Bobo Destroyers have struck back against Akuma Katanas, taking 1 game in game number 3, preventing the immediate 3-0 sweep. Although these teams are now out for blood immediately, preventing me from answering any sort of comedic questions, unless we just simply decide to, watch without commentating, kind of acknowledging Klexo being low HP, acknowledging this amazing Flash Pulverized by 0. And watching Bobo Destroyers like really just clean up the level 1, but more important things. I was asked which League of Legends champion would probably be the worst roommate, and my friends and I, like 4 years ago, just made an entire day of this, like just figuring out an entire list. Who would you want to live with? Who would you not? And it's old enough that like pre-rework Mundo is on that list.
Ooh, but he's the money man.
Yeah, he's the money. He's the money man.
Yeah. I think he'd hit you with the crypto bro scheme, though.
Probably, yeah. So, I mean, we divided this into champions that, like, you literally could not live with, who were, like, below F tier. Honestly, Twitch would be pretty horrendous of the champions you could actually survive living with.
Bro, you'd meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though.
Yeah, and if you can manage the smell.
Yeah. It's just a little sewers.
Imagine, like, your house smells like the worst thing ever, and then you're like, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going down for, like, Cheetos or something, like you urgently need a snack. And then, like, in the corner of your eye, something moves. You can't really quite tell what it is. Of course, it's this little, like, goblin. He goes, I was hiding! Like, completely jump scares you.
Yeah.
Comfort of
I
your
mean,
own
I'd
is
like to...
ruined.
I'd like to think more of, like, the roommate situation with whatever champion is you, like, found a Craigslist ad, and you ended up with them through that. So, like, the rent price would be incredible. Like, I'll just go out wherever else I need at that point. I personally think one of the hardest to live with might be Zyra. Because I don't know how much of a control they have on not having me randomly get, caught up in a few things, and I'm not a huge fan of the implications that that might be in their home defense system.
Well, motivation-wise, I'm pretty sure you being alive is a problem for Zyra. Just as, like, all of Akuma Katanas being alive is a problem for Zyra. And she would rather resolve it.
Yeah, I mean, they can figure that out. You know, it'll come in time. Zero looks like they want to make a play with Tortwig. The mark into the Pulverize is not getting Sully out, but Mortalis is able to grab them off to the side with a Gravitum Infernum combo. Gonna dump that gun, so now they're on the Gravitum Crescendum. Their fight afterwards not gonna be too great in a minute here, but Klexo does pop this Ghost. They're gonna start pushing up this wave and see if they can get some tower damage.
Yeah, Bobo was actually willing to trade 1 for 2 for just that one kill just after the headbutt did not go in the intended direction, right? Waiting for some extra damage here. Zero finds an initiation. Mattel is on some pretty bad guns for it, but is setting up for Pico instead. The melee champions are in the blender, actually. It's Victor's Chaos Storm that is just immediately turning the fight. So although Bobo Destroyers think they identify a good window, and they do get some chunk onto some of the key members of Akuma Katanas, they're getting clean aced, and Cafe Chocolata is totally happy to just eat that death to turret for tempo, leaving only, realistically, Gwen. Only Gwen jumped. They're full dying under turret. They're taking the tier 1 in their face by 4 minutes. It's just clinging on to life by a sliver. A stiff breeze will knock this over. That is an incredibly good push for Akuma Katanas, using their necessary deaths to the fullest.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that the Moonlight Vigil was used with the Gravitum ult, so they weren't able to get the Crescendums to be able to run this. It looks like we're going to be seeing a bit of a dive from Bobo Destroyers, though. Cafe Chocolata, not too enthused about it, but, you know, they're not too upset about it either, as Hakuram is going to be flashing forward to be able to grab Pico through Mighty Crowds, who's come back with a mark! You crazy man! No counter stance, just raw riding that spite of life to be able to go back for the Divine Sunder, and yeah, Hakuram is going to be the person to push over the leaning tower of Pisa there. What a guy.
Look, Jungle Jax can be kind of argued to be a discount Lee Sin, but I've never seen a Jax actually have Lee Syndrome before. we got Klexo in the middle of everybody. Bobo Destroyers are trying to strike back after Akuma Katanas have taken their turn. X-Luke flashes forwards to shoot Pico in the head, but is traded back directly 1-1. Bobo Destroyers get the ace, spending HP on 2 of their frontliners, but the death timers are synced up just in time for Akuma to respond to the push. So ultimately, it is just one of those ARAM money trades.
Very much an ARAM moment. Mortalis has a really fun gun combination to be able to play with in these team fights. And Sephiroth gives you a lot of mobility with the ability there, as well as just a lot of sustain. Infernum is able to give you a lot of area denial if you could just chunk people out with it, but Klexo does not care. The Needleworks is chunking out too. Pico's going to be the first to fall, and Mortalis is on for the inch of her life. Sully could be popped when the market comes through from Tortwig, but they're traded with the Chaos Storm to Klexo, and here comes a back scratcher from Hakuram from downtown, just going to be tapping into the Unstoppable Will, as Zero is going to be knocking up and disrupting. Mighty Kraus doesn't have a lot of cooldowns, is able to make sure Pico goes away, and Cafe Chocolata going to be looking pretty as they're just walking away from Mortalis, going, you know, that's a nice little back rub there. Flash forward from Mortalis, going to be able to cancel that man's subscription to life, and going to try to run down Hakuram. The Q misses by mere inches when they lost the vision there, but, you know, we're going to clean that one up. Sully eats an exhaust, is able to suck that soul out of him, and Klexo is able to pick up a kill, restabilizing once again for Akuma Katanas. That's pretty big for them, being able to get some of these item pickups.
Yeah, for sure. And I do just want to point out the Aphelios gun rotation. Now we have like Severum and Calibrum completely desync from each other, not adjacent to the Crescendum actually. So Metellus, if they want to get to either the optimal or variant optimal rotation, is going to actually have to spend some time that is typically not afforded on ARAM, just correcting the guns, right?
Yeah, this is not a good Aphelios spot. Zero's going to be able to see what they can get to happen, try to slow everything up, but Klexo is not going to give any room to breathe, as Zero's just going to be stumbling on forward, doesn't auto the barrel, and gets punished pretty hard for it. As Tortwig opts to take the back scratcher, Mighty Craft's able to get a kill off to the side onto a Salty Sailor, and these health bars from Akuma Katanas are fairly low, but these marks aren't connecting.
Oh, we have Gravitum Crescendum! It's a disaster!
That's the second time this is happening. Motelis is not... He's just eating all of these skill shots. Sully is making bank off of him right now. And here comes the back scratcher coming out from this rifle. Ornament Tortua going to be setting a stop to that one, but Hakuram is going to live with just hairs of health off to the side here. Going to be able to see if they get some cheeky other damage. Zero's going to be making the dive, but Zyra kills him by accident. There they go. The dive is good. Fluke is so low, but Klexo going to be looking to clean things up. Pico is going to be the next to fall. Zero just does not have those cooldowns up in time, and this Ghost is ready. They're going to try to snip that man. You can milk those if you try hard enough. Here we go. Zero in the health relic, going to be running all the way back, and Tortwig just going to look kind of scary with his 2 chains to be able to try to keep Klexo from knocking on their door for a moment.
Yeah, Zero is able to deny some healing from X-Flute, and the tempo deaths from Bobo Destroyers are actually pretty good. We have Zyra finding 2 items. Aphelios is reasonably close. That is an early engage from the Alistar, syncing up a little bit with the Shen. Aphelios does have the Moonlight Vigil. We'll just have to watch to see where this goes. That's going to go completely in the wrong direction. But yeah, so like Bobo Destroyers are just looking a little bit decent. Such has been their fatal flaw when they're playing coordination-dependent team fights so far. So I don't know. I mean, they're getting very good moments, and the scoreboard does not say bad things about their game state. But just the way I'm watching some of the decisions being made, yeah, it is terrifying for them. Soli's going to be traded back right away. As Klexo is aggressing forwards. Motelis is on a functional team fight combo at the moment. Zero is being targeted by Cafe Chocolata, defended by the Counter-Strike. Going forwards right now to try to play off of Fetish's Chakrams, but now we're on laning guns, still possibly able to close this out. Unless Klexo, no, chunks out Motelis significantly, who is going to be in an awkward position for the rest of this fight. X-Fluke sitting in a bush, has access to some of the barrels. We're rapidly approaching level 13. Tortwig dashes forwards. It is Hakuram going for the Aphelios kill. Leaving Gangplank exposed. Mighty Crest is going to pick up that kill in the meantime. Tortwig is exposed to the Victor Laser. The fight is getting like a little bit complicated. We're not on a single file. Cafe Chocolate goes in to kind of trade back some more HP, although it does desync the Shen from the rest of the team. Soli is going down while Bobo Destroyers have push. And, you know, I may have been a doubter of this game, but this is not a bad position for them to be in.
I mean, this is Klexo with Ghost up again, going to be trying to run amok with Fluke beside him, who has some pretty nice items. Ouch. The barrels are going to go wide, but the snip, it's going to be dropping one, the Unstoppable Will, going to be keeping Zero off the chopping block for just a little bit longer, but the Needleworks is good for so much damage, and there the Ollie goes. Out like the dodo, and Tortwig is going to be grabbing the Gangplank ultimate. This is one that can do a decent amount of damage, but they really need to prioritize getting onto Klexo. But, you know, they can be wrong, but they're still a good man for feeding that Poro. Don't let them go hungry.
Actually, yeah, Poro Snack Shack. Only 2 players have actually fed the Poros, which is a little sad.
Ban them.
Metellus just has no way of actually dealing with the engage, like, on this rotation. Like, actually, I wonder, are we able to check in on that? Like, if I click Aphelios while he's alive?
I mean, right now it's looking like they're just going to be sending Motelis to do some homework. That's...
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Calibrum Gravitum straight into Crescendum, like, just really, really tunnel visioning on 2 effective combos rather than the full rotation, and that's I mean, Matelas is like a significant carry for this team, so like with them being like almost hamstrung throughout half of these team fights, it is. I really ought to stop beating a dead horse here, but yeah, Calibrum, Gravitum, Infernum, Crescendum, Severum in that order. There is a recovery available, actually. The recovery is close. You know, I'm seeing actually, no. If they play their cards right, the recovery has happened already. So now I really need to stop beating a dead horse.
There they go. Solely, such a good combo coming out from Zero to be able to take that one out. The back scratcher is good. Klexo's going to be picking that up. 1 for 1 for right now, but Klexo with the Needleworks, there's nothing to stop him other than this exhaust, but I don't think it's enough. That's a double kill coming out. There goes Motelis, and we're going to be seeing Klexo and Cafe Chocolata continue to press forward with almost full health bars. The flash on the taunt is able to grab Mighty Kraus. There goes our Zyra, and Mighty Kraus is going to get snipped out like the dodo, and Klexo is going to continue this dive with Cafe Chocolata, and there it goes. That is almost a clean ace right there. With minions coming in soon, there's a lot of damage coming onto this tower, and it's very possible for them to take it. Zero's going to be doing his damnedest to hold this, but we've seen them just take it right in front of them before. Klexo going to continue hitting this. Mortalis can't auto. They're outside of the range of the mist. The ult's coming out with Infernum this time. The exhaust is there. Sully might be the next to fall right along with Hakarum, but they do trade out the life of Mortalis.
Yeah, Klexo is an absolute monster this game. So many proactive plays, so much damage being dealt, very few tools to actually deal with the Gwen. Any non-Alistar tools can't actually get into the zone. Just take a look at Gwen's items for a second. We have,
yeah,
a bit of a problem for Bobo Destroyers. This is a very strong
It's a
Gwen.
pretty hat. It's a cute hat.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the Gangplank has also reached the level 13 breakpoint. It's sitting on 2 crit items plus a serrated dirt. They're just taking the engage right away. There's a trade of Needleworks, which is looking really funny. It's dealing so much damage to so many champions. Matelas is still a high damage champion here. Trying to set up. Yeah, not quite recovered on the Crescendum and Gravitum. Actually playing out some success in the back end of this. Mighty Cross is dashing forwards, leaving X-Flukes to the rest of the team, but not chunking Hakarum much in exchange. Matelas has the opportunity to clean up here. Torchwick can get some extra healing. Torchwick takes out Soli. And is only Hakarum remaining. The Abscond Abduct not actually connecting here. 6 seconds until Gwen is back. That gives them plenty of time on the turret. The Crescendum is nuking Lucian here. Torchwick is not actually in that dangerous spot, but we do need to find some deaths here. Are we going to die to Gwen? How quickly are we going to die to Gwen too? Shen's ultimate is actually cast right away to save the inhibitor, although honestly the Gwen is strong enough that it may not have been necessary. And so Bobo Destroyers do take their necessary deaths, do get a reasonably decent fight, but just look at Gwen's wave clear.
I mean, that's a bloodthirster now in back pocket of Aphelios. There's something to work with, but yeah.
I mean,
but Cafe Chocolata doesn't need to taunt everyone. Klexo is just so big.
We're currently watching Akuma Katanas take the inhibitor of Bobo Destroyers, generating quite a lot of pressure. There was no retaliation to that before. They're actually immediately transitioning into some kills here. Pico is gone. Mighty Cross is gone. Torchwick has gone into the back end and has traded 1 kill away, but is going to go down again. Matelas is the last man standing. Good guns for the fight, but very low HP, and just seemingly out of nowhere. I wasn't even ready to commentate a fight. No, not quite. Akuma Katanas do not end the game, but they have progressed it quite a lot. If Klexo can just get like 1 snip, take up Matelas, actually going straight for the turret, giving a shutdown over. There's not a trade. It was just very slightly mismanaged for Akuma Katanas. Like, they almost progressed their game a lot with those deaths. But Bobo Destroyers are hanging on. It is the no Zhonya's variant for Jax, prioritizing just raw HP and, like, sustained damage.
This is old Jax.
Classic Jax.
Yeah.
You know, the one before the AP items took our jobs.
Way back in the day, before the funny hat had its way. But we're going to be seeing a fight break out along Cafe Chocolata. Going to be just scared off. Klexo has the needleworks coming out, but they're going to be stunned up for quite a while, going to be sustaining off of those needles, and Zero might end up just being the first one to fall to Fluke here, as we're going to be seeing the fight run its way, the ult coming out, we're going to be standing united in the grave, as Klexo is going to fall right in the face of 4 members of Bobo Destroyers. This is not a great spot, having Cafe Chocolate already at less than half health to be able to try to be your engage. That redemption is going to help a little bit, but Bobo is low enough that, you know, Soli hits a stray beam here or there. There's a couple people going out.
Honestly, it doesn't matter if Shen dies on the engage at this point. Akuma Katanas are so favored in the direct fight for as long as these numbers persist. Now, we do have Zero coming back, so if they fight, they have to fight now, and they do recognize that. Aphelios is gone. Soli is traded back. X-Fluke is not going to live much longer. Cafe Chocolata dead as well, and it is not a great... Well, almost dead. Imminently dead. A Silas version of the Shen ultimate, and the Akuma Katanas do not find their perfect fight. They do not cheat them, but Gwen is here with the needlework. Is going to look virtually immortal here with how little damage is remaining. It's only Zyra. There's still one set of needles. Wow! She is instantaneously dead. Klexo is actively taking a 1v4 and coming out victorious, which is terrifying for Bobo Destroyers. Now, Torchwig. Nope, not even. The Gwen ultimate looks like it was going to be able to turn it for just a moment. Gwen has half HP. Legitimate 1v4 skirmish by Klexo.
Yeah, waiting out the exhaust was so good. It got popped just before Torchwig popped their Zanyas, which made it effectively not a good use of exhaust, unfortunately. Having your person that you wanted to protect instead... They had a health bar once, I promise you.
Yeah, this is a little bit difficult to play for Bobo Destroyers. Like, you're at the point where the Gangplank barrels are not murdering you, and it's still not a moment to breathe. Akuma Katanas are pressuring forward, only 2 members alive, 1 member alive, Zero is the only one. The Alistar is surely not going to be able to do anything. They're actually diving the fountain for him, but not quite. No! There it is, ladies and gentlemen. After a very, very quick game where things happened very, very abruptly, Akuma Katanas are your first ever Victoris ARAM Series champions.
And I think the lowest kill count we had was still about 102.
I love ARAM. It's such a silly format.
Good performance from Akuma, though, across the split, honestly.
Yeah. So let's just take a moment to reflect on their journey here, because remember, we were trying to figure out, like, is Group B, like... You know, was Group A just a weak group, and did Akuma Katanas, like, were they just, like, the only strong team for that group? Like, was Group B really, like, the competitors where everyone was kind of, like, fighting back and forth? Because we had, like, 2 nearly undefeated teams in Challenger ARAMers and Bobo Destroyers. And Akuma Katanas just, you know, 1 versus 3. Like almost reminiscent of Worlds 2023 with the LCK versus the LPL, right? In this case, it is Akuma Katanas who take down, like, every representative of Group B and just, like, cleanly... demonstrate that Group A is, like, nothing to scoff at.
Yeah. No, Group A, they got their Titans, but...
Yeah.
Damn. That was a good time.
Yeah, no, I am thankful that,
need
like...
a break.
Yeah, no, it's one of those, like casting ARAM, just, like, it's a mile a minute, and just, it's a skill set that we're definitely going to have to learn. But I will say that I am thankful to have started learning the skill set, right? I think we have a very, like, unique format here, and I think that, like, as our format continues to grow and evolve, we're going to learn more about, like, how ARAM works, learn more about how to produce content for it, like, learn more about how to strategize and draft about it, and, like, that to me is really what League of Legends is about, just that continual learning, especially in, like, something, like, novel and interesting. And so Loki, like, thank you so much for sharing the split with me. I really appreciate it. To Bobo Destroyers, to Challenger ARAMers, to Akuma Katanas, to all of our VAS teams, those who made it to playoffs, those who did not, thank you so much for signing up for this league, for taking a chance on our new format, and just to see, you know, what was originally just kind of a for fun tournament to tide us over while Victoris recovered operations fully. I think has really become something special. Right?
Yeah. And to those at home that stuck with us through the technical difficulties, yeah. Love you. Have a lovely rest of everyone's evening. Please be good to each other, and we'll catch you next split.
Right. So, Loki, thank you for joining me. I will let you go here, and I will just spend one more extra moment talking to the chat here.
Bye.
So, everybody, I'm going to have to speak to you from this screen right here. The post-match, everything. Once again, another hearty congratulations to Akuma Katanas. If I'm correct, Akuma has actually just won both of our splits, like both of our leagues. I do think that's actually how it resolved, right? Blades and Katanas in VTS and VAS respectively. So, I'm a little bit limited in what I am able to say about our next split because the announcement is still in the works and we're still developing things. But for everybody who is interested in what you saw on your screen and is interested in like how these top teams approach the split and itching to kind of see if they're able to replicate that, it is looking very, very likely that the VAS will return with an updated rule set that is going to kind of make the player experience a little more comfortable. Likely best of 5 regular season because the best of 3 was very short. Likely a better distribution in ranks. It just like kind of separating some of the top end from the bottom end and making sure everybody can have more of a good time. We are going to be collecting feedback on the split overall on our Discord within probably several days. Yeah, because the timeline is like within the week is when those feedback forms will be coming out. I believe that is almost everything that has to be said, right? Yeah, because I am. It was genuinely a treat to watch some of these teams play, right? To watch how they approached the map. Because I like League of Legends. I like to learn. So, to everybody at home watching, I would like to thank you once again. Tell you to love yourselves, respect each other, and we will see you next split, early 2024, ideally, when Victorious resumes with several exciting leagues. TBA. So I hope you're very much looking forward to that. I've been Quintic. I've been your producer for much of the split. I've been your project coordinator, your caster here. I was joined by Loki, your perennial color caster. Just a quick shout out to all of the staff members working behind the scenes to deliver the split for you through ups and downs. We've learned a ton, and we are ready to deliver high quality tournaments once again into 2024. So, at the risk of rambling any further, have a wonderful night, everybody.